I can speak to Antigonish Detachment for Antigonish Town and County. And last year for 2011, we had 35 reports of domestic violence that were reported to us at the detachment. And of those 35 reports, 21 charges were laid. We feel that domestic violence is underreported, and there's many reasons for that why an individual wouldn't want to report an incident of domestic violence. Statistics are now showing that women are usually, by the time they'll report to police, they've been assaulted 35 times by their intimate partner. And we can see, for example, currently we have had 35 reports last year. We have about 17 open files right now, whereas the Naomi Society, which is part of the Transition Association in Nova Scotia, they have, I believe, 140 open files. So there's consequences, good and bad, for reporting to police. Obviously, if you call when you're being assaulted and then it's a 911 call, we're going to respond immediately with multiple members. We're going to follow a protocol set by the RCMP and also through Nova Scotia's Domestic Violence Intervention Act. You're going to get help immediately, but then there's things that fall into place later to help women and children to be safe after the incident. And one of those things is we do a referral to community services or children's aid, or with our First Nations communities to Mi'kmaq Child and Family Services. So then an investigation would start to see if the children are at risk of harm due to the violence between the parents in the home. So this report would be made to community services regardless if the children witnessed the violence, but if children live in the home at all. Also, it's somebody that you love who's assaulted you, and now they may be put in jail. They may be charged. We do have a pro-charge, pro-prosecution policy in Nova Scotia. And once you make the call, if the police, if I go on a call or another officer in Nova Scotia goes on a call and we see evidence that you've been assaulted, it doesn't matter if you will then give a statement, we will still arrest and prosecute if there's evidence to do so for an assault charge. We, myself and my colleagues, we use the gun registry daily. Police officers across Canada use it over 14,000 times. And there's many examples of crimes of violence being committed with registered firearms. Many women who've been murdered by their intimate partners or husbands have been murdered by registered weapons. And also, like, a prime example of registered weapons being used to murder women is what happened in Montreal at the École Polytechnique in Montreal. And Marc Lepin murdered all those innocent women with a registered firearm. So to say that registered firearms aren't being used to commit crimes, I don't believe that's accurate. I don't have the exact stats on it though. I know that the gun registry is an excellent tool that we use to help keep women safe when they are in domestic violence situations. There's all different types of violence, and I don't think knowing self-defense is going to prevent a woman from being assaulted by someone who, an intimate partner, and women shouldn't have to know self-defense in order to be in a romantic relationship with a man. The biggest thing is, and it's the same with all crimes, is to listen to your gut. When you start dating a person, watch for the signs of control. If they're trying to tell you what you can and cannot do, where you can go, what kind of makeup you can wear, that sort of thing. Those things don't change once you have a baby and get married. They only get worse because there's more to control then. The stakes get higher, and women are actually, once you get married and you're pregnant and have children, are even more at risk if they're with a violent partner. You have to listen to your gut. The same is to prevent any crime. You have to listen to your heart and your gut and realize that it's your right to control your own life. So if someone else is trying to control it for you, you have to get yourself out of that situation.
I'll give you a little background on the Naomi Society. We've been around for 28 years. We started back in August of 1983 in a small office by a large group of people, community interested people. And together they wanted to create an organization to help women and children who were affected by family violence, so therefore they came up with the Naomi Society. Since that time, we've become a member of the Transition House Association of Nova Scotia, so we're a member of FANS, and FANS is our provincial coordinator is in Halifax, and so we're under the umbrella with the transition houses. So therefore, we are not a shelter. We don't overnight, but we are an outreach office. So that being said, our two closest shelters to Antigonish, one is Tierman Transition House in New Glasgow, and our other shelter is Leaside Transition House, which is in Port Hawkesbury. So either way, 40 minutes basically from Antigonish, you can reach or access a transition house.
That's really good.
Yeah, but what we do have is called second stage housing. So we have a house within Antigonish. It consists of 2 units with 3 bedrooms in each unit. It's a house for women and children who can reside there for up to a year, and if longer needed, then they can ask for an extension. But it's to reside there for a year so that they can help themselves get their feet on the ground, find more permanent housing. It's a confidential house. It's in a beautiful subdivision, right locally, centrally located. So we're able to offer that within Antigonish. Some of the other things that Naomi Society does is, so we work with women and children who've been affected by family violence or intimate partner violence. We do, the first thing we do is safety planning. When a woman calls or comes to see us, our first goal is to see what they have in place for safety, to find out a little bit of background, see what has been going on, and do an individual safety plan with her to keep her safe and her children safe.
What are you guys doing?
Raising awareness about sexual assault!
Over the past 4.5 years, we've seen approximately 100 cases come through. Some of them have been cases that we've done forensic evidence collection with, and some of them have been cases that we've just spoken to the individual. Perhaps they have decided they didn't want any evidence collected and that sort of thing. So we do see a fair number there. They can come anytime. There's no specific months of the year that we see more or less. They can come at any time. And the most common people that we see are females. We have had males that have come through as well. And most often the females that we see are within the age of 17 to 25, which is the same that you would see pretty much across North America. That is the highest age bracket for sexual assaults to happen. When someone reports to us, we have a toll-free number that people can call. Generally, people will go to the hospital or they'll talk to RCMP because they know that they can help them. They may not know that the same program exists, but they know that somebody at the hospital or the police station will be able to help them. So when we see someone, we offer 3 choices. They can just get information from us, or they can have some medical care provided and some evidence collected, in which we can freeze for 6 months, or they can have the medical intervention, forensic evidence collected and handed over directly to the police. So as long as the individual is over 16 years of age, they don't have to involve the police if they don't want to. We hopefully can provide some support, make referrals for support for people if they do want to talk to the police, but not everyone is required to. And being able to freeze the evidence is a nice option for people to have, so that they can have some time to decide whether or not they do want to talk to police or not. So we don't ever immediately contact the police, and we don't do it without the permission of the individual who is the victim. Unless the person is under the age of 16, and by law then we have to report those cases. More people are aware of what's going on, more people are coming forward and feeling comfortable to come forward, so I think that is a real benefit. But Nova Scotia does have the highest rates of sexual violence per capita in Canada, so whether or not it has increased more or not, I'm not exactly sure. Alcohol has been used the longest and is used most often as a date rape drug, because somebody may want to assault another person but may not have any specific drugs on them to give to that person. But if they are at a bar or at a party and they know that there's a person there who's drinking a lot and is in a very vulnerable situation, then the perpetrator can take advantage of that situation because the person is unable to consent when they are under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Like, watch your drinks so that nobody puts anything in them. We can tell people to, walk with a friend, walk in well-lit areas, have a plan when you go to a bar to go home with your friends and not go home with somebody else. We can tell people all of those good, solid things to help them stay safe, but sometimes people are assaulted anyway. And so it's important for us as a society to say we need to change our view a bit from don't get raped to don't rape. We need to tell people what constitutes sexual assault, what consent is, and when there is consent and isn't consent, and make people aware what sexual assault is and to be sure to not do it to anyone. But again, we do always try and encourage people to try and stay safe by telling them all of those things. Watch your drinks, things like your mom said, don't let strangers into your house, all of that sort of thing. But for the most part, people who are sexually assaulted are assaulted by people that they know. A lot of times we think that perpetrators are people that we don't know who are going to jump out of the bushes or attack us in an alleyway. Those things can happen, but most often when sexual assaults happen, they're perpetrated by someone that the individual already knows and may think that they can trust. It could be a friend, it could be a relative, it could be a friend of a friend, or even a date that you've been on. So it's important for us to remember that these types of situations and that assaults can happen in any sort of situation, and to not blame the victim for it happening. We need to hold the perpetrators responsible for what is happening.